Is it on the floor? Okay, leave it down. You want to check it, Muslim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ابن سيرين رحمة الله عن أبي هريرة رضي الله قال صلى بنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إحدى صلاتي العشي. قال ابن سيرين سماها أبو هريرة رضي الله لكن نسيت أنا. قال فصلى بنا ركعتين ثم سلم فقام إلى خشبة معروضة في المسجد فاتكى عليها كأنه غضبان ووضع يده اليمنى على اليسرى وشبك بين أصابعه ووضع خده الأيمن على ظهر كفه اليسرى وخرجت سرعان القوم من أبواب المسجد فقالوا كسرت الصلاة وفي القوم أبو بكر وعمر فهاباه أن يكلماه وفي القوم رجل في يديه طول يقال له ذو اليدين قال يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنسيت أم كسرت الصلاة قال لم أنسى ولم تكسر فقال أكما يقول ذو اليدين فقالوا نعم فتقدم فصلى ما ترك ثم سلم ثم كبر وسجد مثل سجوده. Narrated Ibn Sirin from Abu Hurairah said that Nabi Karim Sallam recited for us one of the two salahs of Isha, the evening salahs. So either Maghrib or Isha. So Ibn Sirin says, Abu Hurairah mentioned it, however, I forgot. He said, then he recited with us two rakats. Then he made salam, then he stood up to a hood which was lying across in the masjid, and then he leaned upon it as though he was angry. And he placed his right hand on his left hand and he made tashbik between his fingers and he placed his right cheek on the back of his left hand. So you got it like something like this, right? Uh, on the back of his left hand. And then the hasty people, it came out from the doors of the masjid. So they said, Namaz Salah has been shortened. And amongst the people was Abu Bakr Rajalan, Umar Rajalan. So they feared to speak to him. And amongst the people was also a man who had long hands. He was called Zul Yadain, the man with two hands. In other words, everybody is Zul Yadain, but now because he had long hands, therefore he's called Zul Yadain. So he said, O Nabi Karim, did you forget or was Salah shortened? So he said, I did not forget, nor was the Salah shortened. Then he said, is it as Zul Yadain has said? So the people said, yes. Then he went forward, then he recited what he left out, then he made salam, then he made takbir, and he made sajda, the likeness of his sajda, the likeness of his sajda. Is the hadith finished? No, likeness of his sajda, or atwala, or longer. ثم رفع رأسه وكبر ثم كبر وسجد مثل سجوده أو أطول ثم رفع رأسه وكبر فربما سألوه ثم سلم فيقول نبئت أن إمران بن حسين قال ثم سلم متفق عليه ولفظه للبخاري وفي أخرى لهما فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بدل لم أنسى ولم تكسر وكل ذلك لم يكن فقال قد كان بعد ذلك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So he made sajda the likeness of his sajda or longer. Then he raised his head and he said takbir, and then he said takbir again and he made sajda the likeness of his sajda or longer. So that's now the sajda sehu, right? Then he raised his head and he said takbir, right? So that's now the finish. The sajda sehu is finished, right? So sometimes they asked Ibn Sirin, then he made salam at the end there. So he said, I've been informed that Imran ibn Hussein said, then he made salam. And this hadith is in both Bukhari and Muslim. And the words are for Bukhari. And in the other riwayat for them too, is that Nabi Karim said, in exchange of lam ansa wa lam tuksar, I did not forget and it hasn't been shorted. What he said, kullu dhalika lam yakun, all of that didn't happen. فَقَالَ قَدْ كَانَ. So they said, some of that did happen, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right. Right. So the first thing we understand here is that Nabi Karim can forget, right? But in those matters which has got to do with the league of the Shariat and the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Wahi, they didn't forget it all. Right. Right. So now here there was a speaking in between, right? So the Ahnaf, what they say, that this was at that time that when speaking was still allowed in the Salah, when they should give Salam, answer to Salam, etc. After that, that also became Mansukh, right? Uh, right, and that became Mansukh. Right. Then, according to Imam Ahmad Rahmatullah alayhi, right, speaking during Salah, whether intentionally or unintentionally, breaks the Salah. However, he says here that if speaking during the Salah is there to correct the Salah, then it doesn't break the Salah. Right. So these people say Summa Sallama. So they're saying the Summa Sallama here means that the intention behind this is that did he make the Sijda say after Salam or before the Salam? Right? And then Ibn Sirin said that in Imran bin Hussein, radiallahu anhu's hadith, they is Summa Sallama, which means he made Sajda Sehu after Salam, and that's what the Ahnaf says, right? When Abdullah ibn Buhaynata and Nabi Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, yeah. What he says that speaking in Salah invalidates Salah, whether intentionally or unintentionally, but if you spoke during the Salah to correct the Salah, you understand? Like in this case now, then it doesn't break the salah. When Abdullah ibn Buhayna radiallahu anhu Nabi صلى بهم الظهر فقام في الركعتين الأوليين لم يجز فقام الناس معه حتى إذا قضى الصلاة وانتظر الناس تسليمه كبر وهو جالس فسجد سجدتين قبل أن يسلم ثم سلم متفق عليه. And Abdullah ibn Buhayna رجل النبي أكرم recite with them Zohar. Then he stood in the first two rakats. He didn't sit. In others, he must out Qaida Ula. Then the people stood with him until when he finished, about to finish Salah. The people waiting for his salam. He made takbir while he was sitting. Then he made two sajda before he could make salam. Then he made salam. So this hadith here now uh, is what Imam Shafi Rahmallah says that you make the sajda sehu uh, before salam. However, there are other riwayats which shows that he made salam first, then he made sajda sehu. Umar Farooq radiallahu anhu, it was established for him that he would first make salam and then he would make uh, Sijda Sehu, right? So this Amal of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu indicates that this hadith is mansukh, right? When Ibrahim ibn Hussein, this is the hadith is speaking about. أن النبي صلى بهم فسجد سجدتين ثم تشهد ثم سلم. Rather, it's in the next one. Ibn Hussein, that Nabi Akal made salah with them, then he made a mistake, then he made two sajjas, then he made tashahud, then he made salam. The outwardness of this hadith shows that he never makes salam here, but another hadith which is coming further on shows that he made salam first and then he made sijda sehu. Right. Right. One المغيرة بن شعبة رضي الله قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام الإمام في ركعتين فإن ذكر قبل أن يستوي قائما فليجلس وإن استوى قائما فلا يجلس ويسجد سجد سهوي رواه أبو داود وابن ماجه. Even when Mughira ibn Shu'bah, he said, Nabi Karim says, when the Imam stands after two rakats, then he remembers before he could be standing up straight, then he should sit. And if he stood up straight, then he should not sit and he must make two sijda sehus at the end. Abu Dawud ibn Majah. In other words, you're supposed to sit at Qadai Ula, you didn't sit, you went up. So you see where you are, right? Nearer to, right? If you are nearer, so to sitting, then you sit. If you're nearer to standing, then you stand and you make sijda sehu at the end. Right. So that's the Hanafi maslab also, right? So what does it mean that you are closer to sitting? It means uh, that your the bottom part of your body was not as yet straight. The bottom part. So what it means now is, so it means your legs were not yet straight. Your knees were still bent. That means you're still nearer to sitting. Right? Right. Now here's a hadith we're speaking about. عن إبراهيم بن حسين رجل أن رسول الله صلى العصر وسلم في 3 ركعات ثم دخل منزله وقام إليه رجل يقال له الخرباك وكان في يديه طول فقال يا رسول الله فذكر له صنيعه فخرج غضبان يجر رداءه حتى انتهى إلى الناس فقال أصدق هذا؟ قالوا نعم. فصلى ركعة ثم سلم ثم سجد سجدتين ثم سلم. رواه مسلم. Even Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu anhu said Nabi Akram recited Asr and he made salam after 3 rakats. Then he went into his house and a man stood up to him and his name he was called Khirbak. And he had he had long hands. And Nabi Akram he said, Oh Nabi Akram, and he mentioned to Nabi Akram what happened, what he did. In other words, he only read 3 rakats. So Nabi Akram came out angry, pulling his shawl until he came to the people. So he said, is this person speaking the truth? So they said, yes. So he recited 1 rakat, then he made salam, then he made sajda sehu, then he made salam. So this hadith here now shows that he made salam um, first, right? And then he made sajda sehu. Right. So here now, although this speaking was there to correct the salah, so then still, according to Ahnaf, the speaking during the salah will break the salah, and therefore this hadith is mansukh, because speaking in salah is also now mansukh. Right. وعن عبد الرحمن بن عوف رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من صلى صلاة يشك في النقصان فليصلي حتى يشك في الزيادة. رواه أحمد. And Abdul Rahman ibn Auf said, I heard Nabi Akram saying that whoever recites a salah and he has a doubt in less, in less rakats, then he should recite until he has doubt in the more rakats. In other words, if you doubting, you read 2 or 3, right? Then you take it as 2. So you read 3 now. So now you're doubting, you read 3 or 4. You understand it? Or you take it the other way. If you're doubting, you read 3 or 4. Take it as 3. Then you have a doubt now. So you take it as 3. So now you read another one, right? So now your doubt is no more in the less now. Now your doubt is in the more. Did I read 4 or 5 now? You understand it? Right. So that's what that hadith is saying. So when it comes to sajda sehu now, Imam Shafi Rahmanullah says, in every situation you'll make sajda sehu before salam. Imam Bani Rahmanullah says, in every situation you'll make sajda sehu after salam. Right. And there's also another hadith, a qawli hadith of Nabi Karim Sallallahu He says, where he says that after every mistake, there are 2 sajdas after salam. So when we have the amal and the fail of Nabi Akram clashing with one another, then the usul is you go to the qawl, to the qawli, to the verbal statement of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and you give preference to that, right? Imam Ahmad Rahmatullah Alayhi, what he says is that wherever Nabi Karim made sajda sehu before salam, in those situations you make sajda sehu before salam. And where he made sajda sehu after salam, in those situations, you make sajda sehu after salam. Nevertheless, this ikhtilaf about sajda sehu being before the salam or after salam, these are all got to do with afzaliyat. If anyone made sajda sehu, whether he made it before salam or after salam, he just did something which is khilafe awla, which is he went against his mazhab and he did maybe like Ahnaf they did before salam now, then he did something which is khilafa awla, it doesn't affect his salah. Okay, leave it to me.